I want to emphasize is the reason why it's important to know this information, because when somebody's talking about history, we weren't there, so we really don't know what happened. But like they do in court, you want to get as close as you possibly can to what went on. And the way you do that is with evidence. So you must ask questions: what, the who, the what, the where, the how, the when. You know, if you can't answer those questions, and that's what I'm giving you. I'm giving you the who, the what, the when, the how, the where. You know, I don't necessarily want to pick on religious people, but those are mainly the institutions that don't honor evidence, don't honor things of tangibility. So I gotta, you know, tap off into that, you know what I'm saying? Because I would say at least 99.9% of the people I talk to believe in something, all right? And most of the time, especially in the African American community, when we believe in something, we don't have any evidence to back up what we believe. I have a problem with that, because if I was a police officer, the only way I can convict somebody, the only way I can go up in somebody's house with a warrant or whatever the case may be, I have to have some type of form of evidence. So in our everyday life, when it comes to someone committing a crime and things of that nature, we deal with evidence. Okay? So I'm giving you this information so you will know. All right? But when it comes to the past, for some reason, we clutch up and we don't want to talk about anything concerning evidence. And as long as we have faith, and as long as we put God in the mix, then it's okay to believe in something that we don't have to prove. And I don't think that's fair. You know, I don't base, you know, facts on what I believe. I base what I believe on facts. It's okay to believe something. Believing is beautiful. You can alter belief how you want to, because your mind is powerful. In your mind, you can make something real in your mind. That's the power of the mind. That's the power of psychology. But at the same time, some things have what I call universal reality, all right? Such as I'm a man, she's a woman, you know, you're a man, you know what I'm saying? That's reality, you know. If you're not deaf, you can hear me with your two ears, you know what I'm saying? Let's deal with that. You know, when you're talking about history, when you talk about artifacts, when you talk about archaeology, and when you talk about things that happened in the past, and why we are in the state that we are in right now, we must deal with this type of evidence. We can't deal with what I believe, because, you know, it doesn't hold any weight concerning, you know, the election getting ready to come up. They're only dealing with facts, man. You know, they're talking about facts concerning Obama. They're talking about facts dealing with Romney, right? That's what we got to deal with. So one of the people that's responsible for the facts that we have concerning our history is a man named James Henry Breasted. He was born in August 1865. He died in December 1935. He was an archaeologist and he was an Egyptologist. He was the author of the book that I have called The History of Egypt. And this book right here that I have, it is a real book. This actual book is actually 100 years old. The publication dates back to 1912. And the reason why I like to go back that far and use this type of evidence, because when somebody come with me with something, you got to come with me something better than at least what I have. Okay, he was funded by the Rockefeller family to do an extensive amount of research. So not only was he a man who was an Egyptologist archaeologist, but he had money to back him up to find out this information, to go excavate, to find out these things that we're going to be talking about today. Once he found them, they took him to laboratories. They took him to scientists and people of that nature, you know, and you know, found out certain things. And that's why we have the information. Now, what I don't like about these dudes is a lot of them, what they tried to do is they tried to make it sound like the great things that they found was done by Europeans. But I still hold their information as valid, because as long as they got people to believe that Europeans did it, they told the truth about it. Later on, they found out, oh, okay, people of African descent, people with big noses and big ears and big lips did this stuff. Oh, well, it's too late now. You already gave the information and said how fascinating it was. You see what I'm saying? So I'm still going to hold this as valid. Another person responsible for the finding that we are discussing today is a man named James E. Corbell. He was born November 1867, died in June 1935. He was a British archaeologist. Now, mind you, James Henry Breasted was an American archaeologist. All right, he's a British archaeologist and Egyptologist, and he's the one that found the Narmer palette in the place that we talked about earlier, Ericanopolis or Nikin. Okay, so when they did their thing, he found this artifact, and this artifact said a lot, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. All right, the Narmer palette itself was found in 1897 or 1898. During that time, they were excavating, and that's when they found this palette. It dates back between 4000 and 3000 BC. And on that palette, you're going to see King Narmer on that palette. Those palettes back then, they were used to grind up cosmetics, but later on, they became just a decorative symbol. The symbolism on this palette is very powerful, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. It says a lot, and it tells a lot about our history and why things were the way they were back then. You understand what I'm saying? And we get closer to why we're in the position that we're in right now. But let's look at what we were. All right, and we were kings and we were queens and we are bloodlines of royalty. But to the way society is today, you would not think that we were bloodlines of royalty the way we act right now and the way we seem today. So that's why I teach this class, you know, to give somebody give them a self-awareness. You know what I'm saying? So the beautiful thing about our history is we are the only race of people with such how should I say it? Our history is rich in evidence. We are the only race of people that have an extensive amount of evidence to back up our history. You understand what I'm saying? Every other race were basically, you wouldn't know that if you don't know your history. You wouldn't know that other races who we try so hard to be like. So what we're receiving is counterfeit. What we need to do is go back to the original source and find out. Basically what we're going over today and what we've been going over is the pre-dynastic period of Egypt. All right, as you know, there were a lot of kings, there were a lot of queens in Africa that we don't know about. It's important that we know our history, because if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. All right, and the main reason why I even started this class is for African American people to build up their self-esteem by knowing where they come from. All right, so Egypt is the most documented as far as our history is concerned. It didn't start in Egypt, but it's the most documented. So I like to take the things from Egypt and I like to discuss what went on in Africa, because they have the most documented, because like I tell everybody, that doesn't mean it started in Egypt. When you see an artifact from Egypt, when you see evidence from Egypt, when you see temples, they got their information from somewhere else. I always tell people Egypt is a product of Nubia and Egypt is a product of Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? In Africa, things started from what we call the South today. All right? Back in ancient times, they called the South the North, though. So South Africa will be considered North. Okay? And upper, Egypt or Upper Africa will be considered South. But when the Europeans came along, they switched that. So now we call, the bottom of Africa, South Africa. And we call the top of Africa, North Africa. But that's not how it was in ancient times, you understand? Because the Nile Valley flows from south to north. And it's one of the biggest rivers in the world. It's a 4,000-mile long river. And so that was like an agricultural highway that the Africans used to trade with each other, for architectural tools, for food or whatever. They would use that like a freeway. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why they view the South as North and the North as South, because of the way that river flowed. You understand what I'm saying? So what we're talking about today is the pre-dynastic period of Egypt. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over these definitions, and this is going to give you the blueprint to let you know, or so you can have a better understanding of what we're talking about today. All right? Because a lot of people know these definitions, but believe it or not, there are a lot of people who don't know these definitions. And without knowing these definitions, someone might be able to steer you wrong concerning. So they're basic definitions when it comes to historical information. But for the average person who does not study history, maybe the way you do, or maybe the way I do, or is just not concerned with it, they might just be watching the Discovery Channel, or they might be just watching the History Channel, and they don't know the basic terms of history. They might not know the basic terms of archaeology. You know, they might not know the basic terms of what the individuals are talking about on the screen, and what that can do is they can manipulate the information the way they want to make you believe what they want you to believe about your history, and I don't think that's fair.